So have you ever built anything? If you've built something, then you know what this marvelous thing is. It's a set of blueprints, right? And without these blueprints, whatever you're building probably isn't going to be done correctly. So right here today, we are going to talk about on 141 Life, my 141 Life, we're going to talk about building. Where do we start? How do we do it? And what on earth do we need to build? Because Proverbs 14:1 says, a wise woman builds her house, and a foolish one tears it down. I'm glad you're here today. I'm Kate, and we are going to walk through a blueprint, all right? So, blueprints, you know, they're confusing. As painting contractors, we get a lot of blueprints. Now, there may be 40 pages on this thing, but not all 40 pages pertain to me. Not all 40 pages are things that we have to do. So we've got to look through and go, okay, what part of this building are we responsible for? So as wise women on this journey of becoming wise women, because wow, none of us start out as wise women, do we? No, that foolish one seems to look back at me in the mirror more times than the wise one does. So Jesus says in Matthew 7, he says, anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on a solid rock. And when the rain comes, and the floodwaters rise, because that happens in our life, doesn't that? Rain comes, the floodwater rises, the winds come, and we go, oh my gosh, how on earth am I supposed to stand? But he says that anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise and is like a person who builds the house on the solid rock. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never tried to build anything on a rock. But I imagine it's difficult. You got to keep drilling down into this rock. And Jesus is the rock. So how do we build a wise woman's house? And just like a blueprint, there are many aspects of this house that we're building. We look at our physical house, this. What do we do with this? Our financial. Because, wow, if we're not wise with money, stress just comes beating down our door, doesn't it? That floodwater rises and it's a mess. We need to build our house with as parents, as relationships. If you're married, you know, you've got your relationships, you've got your your financial, you've got your emotional, you've got so many aspects of a house that we're trying to build. So where do we start? Where do we start? I can tell you that any contractor who has one of these and is going to build a house, there's one place they start: the foundation. Because if you don't do the foundation first, you can't put up walls. It just doesn't go anywhere. The foundation for the house has got to be built first. So as a wise woman who built her house, we have to start with our foundation. Our foundation is our spiritual house. If we don't have our spiritual house in order, it's very, very difficult to build any other aspect of our house, of our life, and have it stand. If we just neglect the spiritual and jump right into the physical, you know, isn't that where we want to stand? Wait, that's, you know, we so want to start with just the physical. Lord, change this. Do something with this. But first, we have to follow Jesus and go, okay, if someone listens to him and follows him and does what he tells us to do, we're wise. And we're like the person who built the house on the rock, which means we've got to dig down deep into this, into this, because Jesus is the rock that we're building on. I belong to a couple different, or I follow, I guess I should say, a couple different people on YouTube who are what a lot of people call preppers, you know. And I know there are people like, oh, if you're a prepper, you don't trust God. And oh, if you don't prep, then oh, you're just going to die. And oh, you know, there's so many things. But it doesn't matter if I have a house full of everything, but my soul is empty. I have nothing. I have nothing. So to build my house, to build your house, we have to understand the rock that we're building it on. And the rock is Jesus Christ. He's the cornerstone of this whole house I'm building. And this is where the enemy wants to come in. Because if the enemy can come in and erode your foundation, the house crumbles. The house crumbles. We went last year and worked with Samaritan's Purse for hurricane rebuild. We went into devastated areas in Houston and worked on houses that had been affected by the hurricane, and you could see marks how high the floodwater had been in their houses. We were in one house that the floodwaters were so bad they actually moved the house off the foundation. Don't let the enemy come in and move you off your foundation of Jesus Christ. Because as wise women, we need that foundation. We need to know the rock on which we stand. So when the floodwaters rise in our house and the winds come and the waves and life happens, we are standing securely and will not be moved. Because Jesus says right here in Matthew, verse 24, anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise and is like the person who built their house on a solid rock. And imagine having to put your foundation on a rock. You know, they got to drill down in there. And if you are leveraged down deep into a rock, you're not moving. You are not moving. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. The first place to start in building our house is spiritual. And again, as I talked about on another video, that if you don't know Jesus Christ, then today's the day. None of us are promised tomorrow. And as so many of us women, you know, we have so many things that clamor for our time, that take up our time. You know, we have work, we have, you know, our house, we've got laundry, we've got dinner, we've got, you know, all these things. We got to take care of our kids. We just, and we feel like we have all these bloodsuckers on us, sucking all of our time out. And as we collapse into bed at night, we think, I got nothing done. And we say a quick prayer and then we go, God, I'm sorry, that's all I had for you today. And I want to encourage you that as we build our spiritual house, we gain clarity as to these things that may not be building the other things of our house, that we need to kind of remove from our house. So by starting with building our spiritual house, all the other aspects of our life get better. get a little clearer, get less draining. Our spiritual house has got to come first. Because if you're struggling in other areas, our spiritual house helps us in the struggle of our other areas. So a wise woman listens to Jesus' teaching and does what he says. Because I know Hurricane Sally just hit, and I heard on the news it was dumping like 2 feet of rain. And at times in our life, especially with this whole lockdown and the virus stuff, we feel like we've been dumped on with 2 feet of rain and we just don't even know how to swim. But Jesus is our rock. He is how we stand. And when we stand on Jesus and work on building our spiritual house, deepening our relationship with him, and reading his word, and just figuring out who we are in him, our spiritual house becomes wiser. And there is nothing wiser than the word of God in our life to direct us and help us on our way. I hope that this blesses you. I would invite you to subscribe to the channel. It would be awesome. I also have on Facebook, you can find it, Proverbs 141 on my page, Kate Bancroft, and it's an open group. It's all, again, just designed to help us on this journey of becoming a wise woman. So I hope you check it out. If you have questions, you can reach me at my141life@gmail.com, and you can reach me there. And I hope that you join me on this journey of becoming a wise woman who builds her house. And let's kick that foolish one out of here.